Another Calming My Compass moment, this series provides a beautiful, introspective journey that aligns perfectly in calming your compass, turning a simple routine into a source of profound life lessons. The Barber Shop, a 10-part series, part 1. The first chair. We all have to start somewhere. My first time in that chair wasn't about a haircut. It was about initiation. I was 16, trying to look older. The barber, an old guy named Sal, saw right through me. He didn't ask about my style. He asked about my week. As the clippers buzzed, he talked about his son, about patience, about how things that seem messy now have a way of shaping themselves. He wasn't just cutting hair. He was trimming away a bit of my anxiety. I left with a decent haircut and a lesson I hadn't signed up for. Sometimes, the most profound guidance comes from the seats we're most nervous to sit in. Be open to the teachers you didn't know you had. Part 2. The unspoken language. In a barber shop, there's a conversation that never needs words. It's in the scissors, the mirror, and the nod of approval. You learn to communicate with a tilt of the head, a glance in the mirror. A good barber reads the silence. They understand that a man sometimes comes here not for a conversation, but for the quiet hum of clippers and the focus of a craft. It's a sanctuary where you can process your thoughts while someone else takes care of you. No explanation needed. Not everything that needs to be communicated needs to be spoken. There's a deep peace in being understood without having to say a word. Part 3. The community table between the chairs is a waiting area. But we never called it that. We called it the community table. It's where generations collide. An old-timer reading the paper, a young father with his son, a college student on his phone. You hear debates about sports, pieces of life advice, local gossip. You're not just a customer waiting, you're part of a temporary tribe. For a brief moment, you belong to something simple and real. Community isn't always a grand event. Sometimes it's just a few chairs and the shared understanding that we're all waiting for our turn. Part 4. The weight of the cape. There's a moment of surrender when the cape is draped over you. The outside world is shut out. For the next 30 minutes, your only job is to be still. That heavy, vinyl cape is like a reset button. It signifies a pause. The worries of the day, the to-do list, the noise, it all gets covered up. Under that cape, you are just a canvas. There's a strange freedom in giving up control and trusting a professional with your appearance, and in a way, with your moment of peace. We all need symbolic capes in our lives, rituals that allow us to pause, surrender control, and just be. Part 5. Stories in the mirror. The best stories aren't told face-to-face. They're told in the reflection of the barber's mirror. There's a safety in talking to a reflection. You can be more honest, more vulnerable. I've heard tales of heartbreak, career triumphs, and fatherly fears, all spoken to the image in the glass. The barber becomes a silent witness, a keeper of confessions, offering a nod or a simple piece of wisdom that lands differently because it's not a direct confrontation. A mirror can show you more than just your appearance. Sometimes, it shows you the person you need to be honest with. Part 6. The fate of time. My barber doesn't just see my hair. He sees my timeline. He's the unofficial historian of my face. He remembers the haircut I got for my first job interview. He noticed when I started going gray and made a joke that made it feel like an achievement. He's seen me through breakups and new relationships, not because I told him, but because he observes the changes in my demeanor. He measures time not in years, but in fades, trims, and the gradual shift of a hairline. We all need witnesses to our lives, people who notice the subtle chapters and help us look our best as we turn the page. Part 7. The tools of the trade: precision, care, and purpose. You can learn a lot about life from the tools on a barber's tray. The clippers for the bulk work, the shears for the fine details, the straight razor for the clean edges. Each has a specific role. There's a lesson in that. Some of our problems need a powerful, direct approach. Others require patience and a delicate touch. And sometimes, what we really need is to clean up the edges and make a sharp, defining line. Approach your challenges with the right tools. Know when to power through, when to be precise, and when to make a clean cut. Part 8. The ritual of the hot towel. The ultimate luxury in a barber's chair isn't the cut. It's the hot towel. That moment when the warm, steamy towel wraps around your face, the world disappears. The scent, the heat, the weight. It's a sensory reset. It forces you to close your eyes, to breathe deeply, to let go of the tension in your jaw and your forehead. It's a minute of pure, unadulterated self-care. Never underestimate the power of a simple ritual to center yourself. Find your version of the hot towel moment in every day. Part 9. The lesson in the letting go. Every time you sit in the chair, you have to let go of what you think you want and trust the process. We all walk in with a picture in our heads. But a good barber knows your hair, your face, what's possible. I once insisted on a style that was all wrong for me. He tried to tell me, but I didn't listen. I learned more from that bad haircut than a dozen good ones. It taught me that expertise matters, and that sometimes letting go of control leads to a better outcome than you could have designed yourself. Trust is built in the willingness to listen to an expert. Letting go isn't a loss of control. It's an invitation for something better to take shape. Part 10. The man in the chair. The most important person in the barber shop isn't the one holding the scissors. It's the one in the chair. This series was never really about barbers or haircuts. It was about the man in the chair. It was about you. It's about finding those spaces where you can be quiet, be listened to, be cared for, and emerge not just looking refreshed, but feeling realigned. The barbershop is a compass, and every visit is a chance to calm it, to find your true north again. Where's your barbershop? Where do you go to reset, to reflect, and to come back to yourself? Find that place and visit it often. If you like what you heard, like, share, and subscribe for more. Until next time, more on Calming My Compass.